Where are you going? What will you do? Hey, it's Megan, brings the world to you.
Hello everyone, it's Megan. I wanted to share with you some footage that I got from the Transallegheny Lunatic Asylum in Weston, West Virginia. I recently visited the area, visited it was the Weston Medical Hospital, I think it was also called at one point, and it is on the National Historical Landmark list. It's currently privately owned, but they're currently renovating it, and they're doing it kind of bit by bit, piece by piece, area by area, and they use things like tours in order to help fund the renovation. So the first section of these clips that I have, it's from the first floor. When I went to go visit, I did a 90-minute tour. You tour the first floor on your own, and you're allowed to videotape. And then when you go on the guided tour, when you start going on the different floors into the different buildings and different areas of the property, they ask you not to videotape. So this first section is from the first floor, and it's like a museum type of area. So we just purchased our tour. We're doing all 4 floors. It's about an hour and a half tour. And we just looked at the bottom downstairs area. For the tour itself, I don't think video is allowed. So I'll be taking photos from the upstairs on. So the psychiatric hospital was operational from October 1864 until May 1994. So they had a long span of time that they took patients in. The building opened in 2008 for private tours. So it was bought at an auction by a private owner. and they opened it up. And it was bought in the 90s by the private person, and they opened up in 2008 as a tourist location so you could take tours. The building, it was under construction. There's multiple buildings on property. It was under construction starting in 1858, and it was completed, the different buildings. It was completed in 1881, and they actually had to stop construction for a handful of years due to the Civil War. So that's why it took a little bit longer than originally anticipated. The original design of the building was specifically for 250 patients. Now, by the 1950s, they were overpopulated and they had over 2,400 patients. And you could be admitted to this hospital for very different reasons. Some of those could be laziness, asthma, domestic troubles, those types of things. And a lot of times women were brought to the hospital by their husband's father's brothers and admitted to the hospital for like hysteria, for example, female issues. And the women couldn't check themselves out. Now, this is back like in the 1800s, early 1900s. They couldn't check themselves out. Whoever admitted them to the hospital, like for example, their husband, would have to come back and check them out. So a lot of times, people were admitted to the hospital, and that's where they lived the rest of their lives and possibly passed away. And like I said, they closed in 1994, and a lot of patients were released back into society. During the time of like the 80s, mental health hospitals were closing down, and a lot of patients didn't have anywhere to go. So a large case of homelessness, not just here with the Transallegheny Lunatic Hospital, but with a lot of mental health hospitals in the country, patients had nowhere to go. And a lot of these patients became homeless. And our tour guide was saying that a lot of times the patients that were discharged often came back knocking on the doors asking to come back to the hospital because it was the only semblance of a home that they grew accustomed to having, which is kind of unfortunate that there weren't other things available for the patients to help with things like housing, on the job training, those types of things, because those things could have been very helpful. And it was the Transallegheny was intended to be very self-sufficient, so they had their own dairy, they had their own waterworks, they had a functional garden where they were able to grow fruits and vegetables. They also had playing fields, like a baseball field set up, and there was also cemeteries on property so they could bury the patients if they happened to pass away and nobody claimed their bodies. And the unfortunate part of this hospital, because when this hospital was first founded, every intention was to provide a safe and meaningful place for the patients, and that just because a patient might have mental health issues, that patient deserved every right to be comfortable and treated honestly and fairly and respectfully. That's kind of the intention of how the founder of the hospital, wanted it to be ran. But by the 1950s, it became the home of the West Virginia how do you say it? Lobotomy project. So they were basically, this was kind of ground zero for them doing lobotomies. That being said, like now with modern medicine, we know lobotomies aren't best practices. We know we know of the damages that could be done if you perform a lobotomy, then in the 1950s, they thought they were doing the best they could. So it's kind of like you have to look at two sides of the coin, right? Hindsight's 2020. So that's kind of a brief overview of the Transallegheny Lunatic Asylum. Now, like I said before, they do tours, different types of tours of the hospital that you could go visit, and it helps renovate and maintain the property and the buildings. A lot of the buildings, a lot of the parts of the buildings, they've been able to bring back to the former glory, as you could say. And then there are some parts of the buildings that still need work. So if you go tour the buildings, you could see where the money's going. Other ways that they help fund the restoration of the Transallegheny Lunatic Asylum is they have a haunted house in the tuberculosis building, which is a separate building from the main building, the mental hospital. They also had a separate building for like elder care, so there are multiple buildings, and then they separated due to like populations. So in the tuberculosis building, they run the haunted house every year. And then they also do like a Halloween ball in they call it the Civil War section of the building. And that was the building that was built right after the Civil War. And so they have this big ball. They have bands playing and bonfires and all kinds of things. And so like little craft fair. And when I went to go visit, I did all three actually. I took the 90-minute tour. My friend and I did the haunted house, and then we went to the ball. But we had such a good time on the three different things that they had going on. It was such a good time. We really enjoyed it. If you're ever in the area, definitely go. If not, just for the tour, because it's such a learning experience, and it's a part of the American history, and it's just a good learning experience all around. And if you're there during the Halloween season, their haunted house is like top notch. It's well worth the money to go check that out. But that is all I have for you today. Make sure you like this video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment. If you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and do so. And I will see y'all soon. Until next time, bye.